Well, we are back. It's your man in the shadows, me, Robert Phoenix, and yeah. Hey, I apologize. I was trying to work with the audio today and find a more reasonable solution. It looks like I'm going to have to ditch StreamYard, and this was something I was talking about. I don't know, maybe about a month ago, and all of a sudden, my options for microphones came back, but yeah, it's just a really weird thing. So, not to get you in the weeds, but I'll just take you there for a second. I got a lot of weeds in the back there. In fact, I have poke weed, also known as poke salad, which is quite toxic unless you boil the leaves. And of course, poke salad led to the great hit Poke Salad Annie by Tony Joe White. I was a Tony Joe White fan. I had the greatest hits of Tony Joe White. I thought it was actually very cool, a little small boogie. Anyway, um, yeah, it's just weird. It's just weird when I go to plug in my USB and StreamYard just doesn't recognize it. I mean, that's really what's happening here. So I've again tried to amplify the mic coming in because it's just the mic from the computer, which is not ideal. And I'm kind of over it. And StreamYard never really addresses your tickets. So, this is the thing with tech companies. When they start off, they're really accessible and user friendly, and they have really good customer service, but they grow so fast that they can't keep up with it. And then they employ like bots and stuff, and it's not ideal. And people think that AI will solve everything, and as far as I can tell, AI has a long way to go in terms of, and I've been hearing how it's customer service where AI is going to do its largest cratering. And I've been hearing this for a long time. It's so sophisticated through machine learning that it can speak any language you want or need, and then take you 10 layers deep into the complexity of the question. I've heard this for years. I still haven't heard it yet from an AI agent. All right, but let's hear from you. Let's see who we have in the grand ballroom. There he is, DJ MC, followed by KK. The new next. What's up? What's up? BB, up late again. Well, I was up actually early twice. So it's like being up early twice. Prosperity Now was supposed to be filmed yesterday. There was. And there was. I'm always late. Came in like early. I wasn't retired on a fixed income. Let me see who's the star of the day. Well, I'll give you a little hint. One flew over the cuckoo's nest. Sigurd's back in town. Some people who 5 years ago said the Western applying solution was learn to code. Also, new AI would make all basic coding tasks obsolete within the decade. Absolutely. The future is all Gen YZ girls encouraged to be STEM superheroes. Now being told where to go. So I know, isn't that fucking ironic? It's like, go be a trad wife. That's really cool. It's in. What's a trad wife? Somebody that stays at home, cooks and raises kids, while your husband, man of the house, scrambles around and tries to find some kind of work that AI can't touch yet. You're absolutely right, Cedar. And I talked about this. It's like, are you kidding me? AI is going to be able to code no problem. And they'll be able to code and recode in real time. Yeah, absolutely. So the whole idea with the Klaus Schwabian, the new Schwabian vision of the world is to build things back better, right? And to build back better, you have to live with less. That's part of it. But the Build Back Better part was to abandon legacy systems. And the legacy systems, as you know, are the things that make your planes fly. So if you were to go into a traffic control tower, a lot of their equipment, even though they probably had some upgrades and some new installation of more modern technologies, a lot of them still run on very much older programming. So you have things built on top of things. And that legacy programming kind of trickles down through all sectors of society, even to like water desalination. I've talked about this before. So in order to have a society where everything is basically running on one universal system or one universal grid, you have to come up with not only the means to build it under very specific code so that moving forward, any improvements, changes, repairs are done much more robotically than by an actual human. So it's a rescaling of completely like how we live. I'll give you an example. So let's say, for instance, you lived in a small village and your living space was 250 by 250, and you lived in a row of 250s by 250s. The way that it would be maintained from the outside, whatever the outside is, let's say there would be some kind of, maybe they would want to repaint the surfaces or whatever. They would have some kind of universal sort of like track system that would be built around sort of the perimeter of your block or whatever. And they would literally have the capacity to roll in something right behind where you live, and then this like rail car or something would open, and you'd have drones emerge, and those drones would go in and do things like cleaning windows or whatever they could even probably do if they have mechanical drones and outdoor repairs, right? And then boom, they're back in. Like that's how they want to rebuild society, so that ultimately nobody knows how to do it. And we're in the time machine future. PB, what's happening? Ole Kobe, Janice Phillips. Hey, Janice. They would have yesterday afternoon go sideways. I can kind of relate to it. Bill Smith, Sunny Start. Yes, indeed. I'm the man in the shadows. The Beast is here. Orlando checking in, Southwest Virginia. What's going on, Orlando? There's my guy, Mark S. Rise and shine. He's up with the Roosters. Got to do. There's our guy, Tom Jordan. The lovely and talented one. Stephanie Hunter's here. Hi, Stephanie. Give us one of my these toothpaste up. My eyes open up. Poor Janine. That is. I remember when they would do that on cartoons, they'd stick toothpicks in their eyes. That was a funny cartoon, yeah. Mary Grethler. Hi, Mary. Soul Traveler. Yeah, I think we're all a little ragged today. And I got reasonable sleep, but for some reason, something wanted me to wake up at 4 a.m, which was a little early. Scrubbies, you're on time. Good to see you. Who else? Atlanta Winkler and Laura E. Hi, Laura E. Hadidas 99. There's Hadidas. Liddy Lou. Hi, Liddy Lou. I left my cyber goggles at Portland Plaza. Let's see what else we have. I missed that yesterday. Misbehaving too, Elizabeth Tarrant. Privacy anthem. So you're okay. Cat videos allowed. The good doctor has 2 new kittens. I don't know. They're really adorable. Kittens and puppies are the best. OBS is always an option, and it's free. You know, I used to use OBS. That was when I first started to stream on, and I was actually kind of OBS proficient. Yeah, uh, regain my chops with OBS. If that's what you use for, maybe we should do like a call or something, or a Zoom. If that's what you use, I'd love to pick your brains with it. I'm sure there's some tutorials out there. I mean, when I first started streaming, that was the only thing I had was OBS, and I used it. Catherine Rosen's here. Hi, Catherine. Great to see you. Let's see. Who else do we have? Jackie Delario. Oh, another rainy day. Moira, NYC. Who else we have? Lisa Ann White. Yesterday, ICE and FBI came to town for a specific raid with warrants. One restaurant and one house search. 2 employees arrested. People went crazy. Beating the Fed cars, screaming, wow. That's some excitement. 1 restaurant and 2 employees. Okay, how do you really feel about that? How do you feel about, are they just pumping the numbers? Is this like getting speeding tickets at the end of the month? I don't, it just feels like these guys are just going after low-hanging fruit. The Hyundai plant, they had about 40 people that they sent back to North Korea. And those were people that were there who, through some kind of clerical error, overstayed their visas because they were training American workers. And I believe it was a motor facility. And they were training them to build motors, assembly line stuff, right? And now there's nobody there to train them. And Hyundai is like, well, gee, maybe we should just close our business. And fuck you. We're not going to employ your local yokels here. I mean, tell me in what world that makes sense. I still haven't seen any cat cookers sent back. Let's see who else we have. Devin Newer, hey, what's going on? Double D, what's up? Trad Wi-Fi. I like that. Let me throw that up there. It's good. We need some laughs. Senior's always good for this 1 or 2. Ojo Suzules, greetings. Let's see. Oh, look at this. I'm a trad wife with benefits. Whoa. Look at that. Really lose kind of a superwoman. I'd agree with that. Yeah, if you've never met her, she's a joy. Sue Leonard's here. Hi, Sue. Where's my guy? The big cheese. Will Smith in the house. Let's see. What else we have here? Naturally, Mother Earth. What's happening? Charlie from Biloxi. There he is. What's up, Charlie? Charlie is Bills. I think it might be their year, Charlie. I think all your patience might be paying off. Hanging laundry. What's up, Hanging? Hanging's hanging. My electric sign today does work. It's just got the right cast of shadow. Thank you, Catherine. I agree with that. Sandra Jack Shaw. Oh, Sandra's got her clan from Scotland staying with her. I hear Sandra makes a good haggis. I'm wearing my blue shirt. There we go. Yeah. I'm in blue today. My son took welding in high school. You know, there was a time when I flirted with becoming a welder. It sounds weird, right? This was around 2011, and there was this welding school. I was living in Point Richmond, which is really industrial. And there was this welding school. And I thought, man, do I really want to be an astrologer? I don't really want to do this astrology stuff. Maybe I want to do something useful like welding. And I just, I don't have the body type for stuff like that. I really don't. I'm 6'3". I'm pretty angular, and I have not always the most compliant back. And I just thought welders got to get into weird positions and get into, like, I don't know, maybe it would have been good just to learn how to weld for basic shit. But I actually thought about, there was a school there, and I thought about becoming trained in this school. I don't know what kind of transit was going on, but props and respects to all the welders out there. I'm sure I heard about Echo startup using AI to run adaptive greenhouses to combat the Belgian psycho-demon. Yes, if you feel like buying me a cup of coffee, thank you, Mr. Jordan. Appreciate that. Let's see. Leonie Samuels. Hi, Leonie. Love your comments, by the way. Let's see. Giovanna Q. Crazy dreams last night. Anybody else? Helena Suba. Hello, Helena. Good to see Jerry Kramer. Jerry Kramer's like her. Maya Rose. Hi, Maya. Julie Sunshine 333. Brandy Herrera. You can restream with OBS quite rampantly, I believe. Okay. Hey, JJ's got a book coming out. JJ is one of the most fucking productive people I've ever met. JJ, we'll get you on the show. We'll get you on the forecast because your book is coming. JJ's the epitome of being an artist. She's a true artist. Let's see. All right, well, this is interesting. In rural Colorado, Venezuelan gangs are still occupying apartments, but they'll haul away some cooks. Make it make sense. I was scared about this area around town. They were probably running drugs. They could have blocked off the trailer park. Yeah, maybe. We don't know. Whatever the state tells us, we're just going to trust the plan. Well, here, my father was air traffic control. Old system. I know, right? It's old. It's really old. And they can put a few things on top of it to modernize it a bit. But when the old school air traffic control guys go away, not everybody's going to be around to be able to run that stuff. Kelly B, what's up, Kelly B? This is an interesting comment. Kodak did the same thing in the 90s. Brought over 1,000 Chinese, trained them, and shut down Kodak in Rochester. That was going to get shut down anyway. That unless Kodak flipped into the digital world, they were an endangered species. I'm sorry to say. Another young woman was just killed by an illegal drunk driver in Queens. Wow. So my kid nearly got into an accident yesterday. I got this frantic text from him. They almost got into an accident with a fucking meth head. I was like, let me call. So I called him up, and he was literally just happened. He was really freaked out. So some woman who was losing her shit and going extremely fast was doing like a hard lane drift right into his car, which is actually my car. And what did he say? He said that she was some crazy librarian meth head. I don't know where he got that from. And my first question is, are you okay? He says, yeah. And I said, is the car okay? He said, yeah, okay, you're both okay. I'm like, what's the lesson here? I mean, literally, you got pushed off to the side of the road. And what's the lesson here? He had some kind of angry answer, which I don't really blame him. I said, you got to always be self-aware. and have situational awareness. That is the answer we're looking for. Okay, why don't we get into some astrology? Um, let's do this. As you know, I'll have to burn the first image because just because that's the way it happens. What the hell happened here? Oh, come on. I can't see myself now. I don't want to add that. See, here's what's going on with StreamYard. They're doing a lot of development. Like every day there's like some kind of new thing, and new isn't always better. How the hell do I get back here? I am not an incompetent person. Let me do a refresher. Hold on. Reloading. Okay, we're back. This is weird. All right, try this again. Yeah, this should be good. Yep, recognizes it on the second pass, as always. Hey, I got a recommendation for you guys. If you haven't seen James Tallarico, he was just on Rogan recently. He's a state representative here in Texas, and he's like this rising star of the Democratic Party. And this guy is, I'm gonna, if we have any elections moving forward, this guy's gonna be president. He's on a presidential track to be elected within 3 years. I'm telling you right now, this guy is, if he manages to beat Cornyn or Ken Paxton, because he's going to take down the Senate seat. He'll do his two terms as a senator. He'll run for president. I guarantee you. He's 36 years old, so by the time he finishes, if he wins his second term, by the time he finishes year 2 in his first term, he'll be 39, which I believe makes him eligible for president. And he is the Republican Party's worst nightmare because he is a Christian. He went to seminary school. He preaches the gospel of Jesus. And he's even able to make a theological argument for abortion. And I looked at his chart and like, this guy is kind of somebody to be reckoned with. He's a Taurus, and it seems like the Tauruses have been activated. Like Uranus activated like the Taurus sleeper cells. There's a lot. I'm noticing a lot more like Taurian energy, like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. Jason Whitlock was always activated. This guy James Tallarico. There's been this like Taurus activation, and but he has Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter all in Gemini. This guy could win an argument with the devil. I swear to God. And he looks like a cross between Charlie Kirk and a Kennedy. And he has Mars Cancer conjunction with Chiron. which gives him the ability to feel like he's very empathetic and can stand up for the underdog. And it trines, he's a millennial, so his Mars trines Pluto. I'm telling you, this guy he feels also a little bit like there's kind of a Bill Clinton-esque quality to him too. And his story is kind of interesting. Now, I don't know who his birth father is because it doesn't mention it in his bio. He's born to a single mother, or that's what it says. And some guy named Calorico comes and marries his mother, adopts him, takes the name Calorico. They have a biological daughter together. And someone in there, either her father or his father, was a Christian Presbyterian, I guess, minister, pastor, whatever, and got him on the path of the good Lord. Right? But you don't know who his birth father is. And that's, whenever I see that, it's like, oh man, are we talking like devil's advocate style birth father? Anyway, James Tallarico, if you haven't caught his act or seen what he does, I highly recommend it. Because whenever they show clips of him, this guy is dominating TikTok, by the way. He's dominating TikTok. He's dominating IG, gets millions of views. And it's like he has a sidewalk sermon, and everybody's intently listening. And he's got the delivery and the cadence of being a minister down. But he's a minister that can make a biblical argument for abortion. Here's how he does it, just by the way. There is, I guess, a passage in the Bible where the Lord asks Mary if she wants to have the child. Jesus. And Mary says, well, yes, I do. He says, well, see, there you go. The woman has to consent. So God is just an abortion clinic in the sky, really. Anyway, check him out. He's got a Josh Hawley vibe. They're sort of contemporaries. They're around the same age. But this guy is squeaky fucking clean, and he's not just all talk. He's got some things done. He managed to lower the price of insulin in Texas. He opened up pharmaceutical trade from Canada, which is cheaper to come to Texas. He did that. So he also, when Tauruses are motivated, they can really get things done. And he's got that Mars-Pluto trine. It's a very powerful trine inside of the chart. Speaking of charts, here we are, back to the scene of the crime. We're in a grand trine, still getting grander and trinier by the day. And we're approaching eclipseville. You know what I saw yesterday relating to the health eclipse material that is looming in the background is that the U.S. government and one of their highfalutin agencies have approved, they're on the track to approve 3 new vaccines. So what are they going to use those vaccines for? Question mark. I don't. Whenever they approve new vaccines, they're not doing it just, hey, look, we're going to approve these. We may use them in the future. No, they're approving them so they can be used like here and now. That's what they're doing. So we're going to see more health-related stuff. I think there's going to be some devastating news around the job market because Virgo represents like the people that do everything, like make your meals and then wind up in Mexico. They can come to this town and clean the fuck up. I'm telling you right now. They wanted to. There's more low-hanging fruit here than those pomegranates in the thumbnail. Is that what we really want? I mean, look, if they're running drugs, that's one thing. Then get them out. But if they're not, and it's just like, there's a difference between hunting for sport and hunting for food. I'm not a big sport hunter fan. That's like hunting for sport in some ways. Anyway, we got the Sun Mercury conjunction. The nice part here is that Mercury separated a bit. We're at 4 degrees. So the ability to communicate and not take things so personally is getting better. But we're still dealing with the Neptune-Saturn opposition. And as Mercury moves further into that opposition with Neptune, how we say and what we say is not always being taken with clarity. You may have to over communicate, but the downside with that is by over communicating, people may find that offensive. But I think it's better to over communicate. When it's in Libra, it's okay because you can sort of smooth things over. But it's okay. Like, I get where you're coming from. I just want to make sure, we're on the same page, or we have the same, talking points or marching orders or whatever you want to use. But again, I think the challenge with any Mercury-Neptune opposition is figuring out what to say and when to say it. Listen to yourself. I took my own advice the other day. I actually took my own astrological advice. I was going to shoot something across text. I'm like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to send this. And you know what? My soul rested easier. It did. Rested easier. Sometimes it is that critical and in the moment, and that the whole self-awareness piece clicks in. We have Mars in Libra getting down there towards the end. So I think the clock is ticking. We've already had Mars Scorpio, Mars Pluto square. But when Mars goes into Scorpio, fixed sign, something's coming. Something's coming that evokes irrevocable change. We are, and this is my take, we're on the precipice of an event because they're going to come fast and furious. One of the worst movie franchises in history. First one, kind of fun. Everything else after that. I don't know. Some people like that stuff, but it's like junk food. Anyway, we're coming into a critical phase. Today we've got the moon in Leo and Mars in Libra. I like the moon in Leo. It's coming in. We got the sextile right there with Sun, Mercury. That's a good day to, let a little love in your heart. Right? Words of encouragement. Flip the Virgo script. Instead of being critical, encourage. Find it in your heart to find something good. You know what's interesting? Not everybody can take in encouragement. First of all, it has to be sincere. But a lot of people just have a hard time accepting compliments or connecting or attaching to something that is of value to themselves and others. It's a real interesting balancing act of that, isn't it? You feel like if you go too far, it sort of goes to your head. Next thing you know, your shit doesn't stink. But if you don't do it enough, you put yourself in the place of the pauper. So Libra really is that the scales of the balance, where you can take something in, and Libra is very complimentary. I mean, that's what Libra does. Libra is always nice and complimentary, and has all the social codes down, but it balances between those two fields. Today's good for that. I'll tell you what else. Today's a good pet day. I don't talk about animals all that much here on this podcast. Today's a really good pet day. I predict, this is my prediction, I predict somebody's going to get a new pet today. Somewhere in the world, somebody's going to get a new pet. You think I'm going to be over the target on this one? That's an easy one. I'm going all in on that, pushing all my chips in. Somebody's going to get a pet today, somewhere in the world. No, somebody who's listening to this podcast. The potential for you to add a loving animal into your life. You may not want to pass it up. Venus phasing out. We're at the final degrees of Leo, and it's moving into Virgo, and that's really what this Venus-Uranus square kicks off. And Venus and Virgo is always looking for relationships that make sense, that are rational, that are logical, that fit. They may not be ostentatious, but they are practical, right? Uranus isn't practical. It's not practical. So what it does is it disrupts routines and relationships. Sometimes that's a good thing. People get stuck. You do the same things over and over and over again. It's easy to become a creature of habit. So Venus-Uranus square isn't necessarily bad if you can break your patterns. And it also has a lot to do, just in general, with relating to people, not just relationships. And Venus and Virgo is critical. And if you're too critical, that square with Uranus will snap back on you hard. So it's a real balancing act between being able to say what you need to say and oversaying what you need to say. Really interesting chart. We got a mystic rectangle. We got a grand trine. We got a yod. That yod is still in effect with Neptune. What is real? We're still sorting through the five layers of Charlie Kirk. We were sorting through that. There's at least 5 different scenarios of the shooter. The latest, I'm going to show it over on 15 Minutes of Flame, is a guy with a palm gun. Kind of compelling. And then you have the prosthetic squib crowd. Then you have a sniper who's on the other side, and the bullet actually goes through this part of his neck. And the exit wound is always where the blood and the gore happen. So there's that. Then you've got the real sniper, theoretically, on the roof. So those are at least 4. Then you have the guy. Then there's the guy who might have the gun over here, who's doing one of the signaling things and does this, a la Kennedy. You got 5. You got 5 potential shooter scenarios. One includes the squib, which makes it not a shooting. So that's Neptune. It's at 0 Aries, getting ready to go back into Pisces. It feels like we're back. I hate to say this. I don't want to be Bobby Bad News, but it feels like we're headed back towards some kind of pandemic. We're headed back towards some kind of alarm. And it's really, they got us chasing our tails even on COVID. Well, there's no such thing as a virus. Viruses don't exist. And yet people were getting sick. And they weren't getting sick because they were swabbed. And they weren't getting sick because they were shot. And maybe they were getting sick because there was shedding going on. Maybe that was the early sort of thing that where people were getting the shot or were getting swabbed. And I do think the swab was the first delivery system. They were jacking that shit up. Like how far was going up in your brain or your nasal cavity was probably breaking the brain-blood barrier. Again, a lot, there's just so much confusion with COVID. And I know some of you got sick during that time. I got sick in November and I was really sick. I was sick for like 3 weeks. I'm usually never that sick. And if I am, usually never sick. If I am, a day maybe, or day and a half, 2 at the most, not 3. 3 is a long time. So we have this yacht, there's Venus, there's Mars, there's Neptune, right? We're still in Yodville. And that's also very relational. Nice flow between the masculine and the feminine. But you're also driving with the high beams all through fog right now. We also have another in conjunct with Chiron at 26 and Mercury. Okay, so watch 2 things to watch out for today. Talk about gun control. The speech thing has come up. Pam Bondi basically put her foot in her mouth. Why do they do this? I don't think it's a mistake. First, she says we want to put fluoride back in the water, and then she walks it back. Then she says we want to there's no room for hate speech, and then she walks it back. I think the walking it back part is I think it's all intentional. They're just getting you used to the ideas. So I think look at more talk around gun control, guns, who gets them, red flag laws. It's all in the air today and over the next few days as we still deal with the aftermath of Charlie Kirk, the Charlie Kirk event. By the way, I was all over it on Sunday night. If you saw the Sunday night show, I brought up Erica Kirk's relationship with beauty pageants. And she didn't just do any beauty pageants. She did Donald Trump beauty pageants. And Erica worked for the Trump administration. She worked for Trump Inc. She became somebody who was kind of an executive. Like she helped pick out contestants. Erica Franze, I think that's her name. She was Miss Arizona, and she was part of the Miss USA beauty pageant. So she came through the beauty pageant world, which we knew, and it was Donald Trump. Donald Trump owned that. And then you throw in that supposedly Charlie Kirk's father was the architect of Trump Tower. I mean, Charlie Kirk has known Trump for years. Anyway, there's something weird about the whole thing. Okay, here's our True Hemp Science star of the day. True Hemp Science, your one-stop shop for all things CBD. And thank God they finally settled. They finally settled their ongoing debate about THC. And here's what they did. Dan Patrick, who's the Attorney General or Lieutenant Governor, he wanted it out, period. And essentially what Greg Abbott did is he said, well, we'll just make sure that you're 21 if you buy it. So it's like buying booze. If you go to a shop, you're going to have to show your ID. I don't think it's not necessarily a bad idea. Some of the stuff they sell in these vape shops is really powerful. Like there are blends of kratom that are like fucking Percocet. And they will knock your ass out. I have those. All right, let's talk about what you do here. You get $100 or more, type in 15MINS, and you will get the goodies. You will get the goodie bag, and you will enjoy it. You will enjoy the goodie bag. You will enjoy the goodie bag. You will enjoy the goodie bag. And it's a little bonus. It's a little whipped cream on top of your strawberry shortcake. I love strawberry. Oh, I used to love cakes and pies. Such a bitch getting old or older. It's like, I can't eat that anymore. Anyway, sorry, my mind is going in a different direction. So if you type in 15MINS, spend $100, you get the goodie bag. You get free shipping with 150 more, and there's always a 30-day money-back guarantee. Make CBD a part of your life. Everybody who does it on a consistent basis feels the effects. You got to do it for at least a month because it's got to basically saturate your cellular system. And when it does, it's like the Tin Man getting oiled up. All right, our True Hemp Science star of the day is Ken Kesey. I was trying to get as close to Dayglow as possible for the lettering. This is a famous photo of Kesey handing a joint to Neil Cassidy. Now that's Neil Cassidy who's driving the bus further. And some of you are familiar with Ken Kesey as being the author of two pretty famous books. And out of those books came two movies, one of which is a classic in American cinema. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And it's basically the retelling of Ken Kesey's time as a nurse, psychiatric nurse near Stanford, where they were running LSD experiments. I'll leave that part out of the movie, but Ken was there to distribute LSD to these patients. Well, he found out where the cookies were, and he decided to take some of those cookies home. And he's like the Moses of the 1960s. It all starts with Kesey. Yes, you have Louis. Yes, you have Ram Dass. You have that whole scene on the East Coast, but it's the West Coast that explodes it and turns it into this gonzo lifestyle. And if you've never read Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test, I highly recommend it. Let's get into his chart quickly. You can see up here with Mars in Sagittarius, like opposing the moon in Gemini. That is the bust. That is further. So their plan was to drive this hippie bus across the country. They have all these wild encounters, and there's all these wild characters. And Cassidy is driving, and Tom Wolfe is the author. And there's a passage in there where Ken Kesey is on top of the bus, sitting cross-legged Indian style, and they're coming through the Rockies, and they're all, high as a kite, and on acid, on speed, weed, whatever, right? They are letting it all hang out. And Neil Cassidy's driving, and he's not driving super careful. Like, he's whipping this bus down through the Rockies. And Ken Kesey is sitting there on the top of the bus like this yogi. And that to me, that's Mars. That's Mars and Sagittarius. And it's like further is related to more. And more is a word that I connect with Sagittarius. Like, this is one of the great Sagittarian saints. It actually comes from a non-Sagittarian, which is Todd Rundgren. Anything worth doing is worth overdoing. And when you read that passage, you can see Mars on the midheaven. It's at 0 degrees, and he's flying through the Rockies. And he's got a home on wheels, which is moving Gemini, right? Aquarius rising. And this guy, you could probably make the case that, like I said, he's like the Moses of the 1960s. And look at his true node. It's in the 12th house. And that's where he makes his bones, right? The 12th house is hospitals. Hospitals. One flew over the cuckoo's nest. Really interesting. And he's a 12th house person. And eventually, once they have the last of the big, I think it was a being, it was the human being, he was done. He was done. He packed it all in, and he moved to Oregon to become a dairy farmer, because that's the background that he came from. And I feel like that's also very 12th housey. Like Ken Kesey just disappeared. I mean, he still wrote. He wrote Sometimes a Great Notion, which was turned into a movie. I saw it as a kid. I thought it was boring as shit. Paul Newman's in it. It's about a logging family in Oregon. I'm sure the book is much better. He's got a loaded 7th house. And he's got Chiron down there in Gemini. It's really interesting too, right? Like, he's able to deal with like schizophrenics and people that have kind of lost their minds with Chiron and Gemini, and squaring off against all those Virgo planets that he has. And what was he literally in Stanford? He was an orderly, right? And that's something that we would connect with the sign of Virgo, order. It's got a really interesting chart, Grand Cross, intercepted first house with Saturn and Vesta. And it feels to me like once he runs into his Saturn return, he's done, pretty much done. 28, he's done. I think that's about right. He's wrapping up. We have Saturn in Pisces, starting with around 1965, 66, 67, right around there. It starts to go into Aries. And he's done. He literally dives into the intercepted part of his first house. And whatever he was doing for instant gratification becomes a pursuit of long-term investment with Vesta. What is he investing in long-term? That's what we're talking about here. And he's got a Pluto-Mars trine. People that Pluto-Mars trines they're like forces of nature. Like this Tallarico kid has one. And he's able to channel it into this kind of universal empathy. You have to watch a James Tallarico video. But be careful, you might fall under the spell. I think that might have a little AC vibes, if you know what I mean. Anyway, this is a very interesting chart. And it's the Grand Cross and the mutable signs that is the big, big test. And I think ultimately Kesey passes the test with flying colors. He retreats back into his 12th house and has a much more agrarian life, which for me, by the way, is Pluto in the 6th and conjunct that south node. Like it almost feels like he has unfinished business with the writing world, with being this iconoclast, and then he goes back into the thing that he knows and loves, which is he was also a wrestler. So he was really strong and thick. He must have been a hell of a wrestler with that Mars-Pluto trine. Interesting character. You know, one of the things that he did is, I saw this documentary one time on the Merry Pranksters, and he basically made this analogy, and he said, and I'm paraphrasing him, first they put you on a pedestal, then they want to kill you. And he was very serious about this, whether it was the federal government or people who were inside of his own world. Like, there was always an uneasy relationship between the pranksters and the Hells Angels. When they had one of these blowouts, I used to live not far from the house in the Honda where Kesey did his Kool-Aid acid test. Supposedly, Neil Cassidy had his wife there at one of these events. It was a long time before I got there. But one of the things that came out of that is that the Angels were there and they gang raped Cassidy's wife. Cassidy was bisexual. I guess if you can be bisexual, he was bisexual. So there was some darkness here. I mean, it wasn't like Ken Kesey was the complete culture. I think he struggled with some of that stuff. And eventually he was like, shut it down. I'm done. There's no much. Unlike Tim Leary, who decided that he was going to be a brand ambassador for the entirety of his life. Kesey's like, during his Saturn return, I'm done. We're finished here. The mutability circus has left town. Okay, speaking of leaving town, I'm leaving this town. And I'll be over 15 minutes of playing. And I've got a working title. We'll see where it goes. There are other things I clearly want to talk about today. But if I don't stay on the lead, please forgive me. All right, thank you for being here. Hit the like, subscribe if you enjoy it. I still do readings for a living, so if you're interested in that, you can click on that. And so we got boys and girls. All right, take care of yourselves. Treat each other well. God bless you all. Love you all. Bye for now.